Right. Hi everyone, welcome to today's training session. My name is Jamie Brown and I'm part of the support team here at SuiteFiles. Today's training session is going to be specifically for SuiteFiles administrators. We're going to be going through all of the kind of admin features and just the things that SuiteFiles admins will need to do to manage their SuiteFiles site and their subscriptions. So there's a bit of information before we get started, which is more around things like the requirements and what's actually supported for using SuiteFiles. So we do have this information on our Help Center, which is accessible with the URL suitehelp.suitefiles.com. And if we actually go to the Get Started guide and setting up your computer, you'll actually see we've got a list of our requirements here. But I'll just kind of reiterate these for you. So in terms of a Windows computer, Windows 8 and Windows 10 are what we support. We don't actually support Windows 7. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll have issues using Windows 7, but as it's getting a bit older now, we can't guarantee everything will run perfectly on it. The browser that we recommend and support using for Windows users is the Chrome browser. It's what we specifically build our web app for, as well as things like our Chrome extension. Versions of Office we support. It's just the latest version of Office 2016 or Office 365, same kind of thing there. And that's really the Windows requirements. In terms of our actual add-ons, our add-ons are more being built for Windows computers. So things like our Outlook app and our Suite Drive app, those actually only work on Windows computers. And in saying that, there is something that's changed there, but basically the normal SuiteFiles for Outlook app and SuiteFiles Drive app only works on Windows. If you're on a Mac, then you'll need to have the latest version of Mac OS. And the browser we recommend and support using on Mac is the latest version of Safari. The reason we don't actually support Chrome on Mac and we recommend using Safari is because Safari is actually the most compatible browser with Office 365 on Macs. Again, the latest version of Office 2016, or Office 365, same thing there. And in terms of the add-ons that you can use, the Chrome extension will work if you're using the Chrome browser on a Mac. However, the SuiteFiles for Outlook app, the normal one, which I'll show you quickly, looks like this one here. This doesn't work on Windows. We are actually kind of in the process of releasing a Mac compatible Outlook app, which looks like this. Is going to load, which will actually allow Mac users to use an Outlook app. It's not going to be an exact replica of our Windows one. There might be a little bit less functionality and a few ways that things have to work differently, but just be aware that we are looking to catering to Mac users as well. We're trying to just kind of figure out how that works. It is a bit more difficult, but that's kind of what's supported and what you can use with those different operating systems. Now, there's also just kind of a little thing to be aware of in SuiteFiles, which is Office 365 restricted characters. Now, if you just do a search for restricted characters in our Help Center, you'll actually find there's an article here. And basically, there are these restricted characters that are restricted in Office 365. They can't be used in file or folder names. Now, this is actually changing fairly regularly. Things like the ampersand used to be restricted, but that's not actually restricted anymore. So there's also a link here to Microsoft's kind of latest list of these restricted characters. However, we also kind of build our support for the characters in line with Office 365. So this list here is very accurate. If you do something like if you put a hashtag in a file name, SuiteFiles shouldn't accept it, but there's probably going to be some edge kind of cases or outline ways that you can do it. And if you do that, it will just basically stop you from being able to open or edit that document because it won't be able to read the file name correctly. So this is something to be aware of. It's also something you might just want to pass around the team, just so people are aware of these characters that cannot be used in file or folder names. Okay, so that's really all of the kind of information before we get started with actually managing users and that sort of thing. But if anyone has any questions about the requirements, please feel free to let me know now. Otherwise, we'll go on and we'll have a look at things like how you add new users and manage your users in SuiteFiles. Okay, cool. So if you want to add a new user, if you want to add a new user to SuiteFiles, it's actually not done through the SuiteFiles interface. Because you're using an Office 365 login to get into your SuiteFiles site, and because SuiteFiles is built into your Office 365 account, that user that you want to add simply needs to be given an Office 365 login and have an Office 365 license in your Office 365 account. And then what they do is they simply go to your SuiteFiles site URL, and because they have a login to your Office 365 account, they go to that site URL and which I'm already logged in here, but if they log in with their new Office 365 login, our app will recognize that they are actually part of your account, and it will automatically add them as a new active user in your SuiteFiles subscription. So be aware of that's how you add them. If you've got a bunch of people in your Office 365 account who don't, for some reason, need access to your SuiteFiles site, just be aware that by default, if they are part of your Office 365 account, if they have a login with your account, they will be able to access your SuiteFiles site. If you want to change that, just let our support team know, and they can arrange for that to be changed for you, and they can show you the kind of process in doing that. But if we want to remove a user, slightly different. If a user logs in for the first time, something very easy to recognize and automatically add them to your subscription. If a user leaves the company or no longer needs a SuiteFiles subscription, it's a bit harder for us to determine. People might go away for a few weeks and then return. It's hard for us to actually judge when users have fully left. So like most apps, you will need to manually remove that user from your subscription if they are no longer using SuiteFiles. The way to do that is to actually go to our management portal, which I'll just show you in a tab here. To get to the management portal, you need to go to the URL, which is manage.thefullsuite.com. There's also instructions on our help center, which will have this link, but this is the URL to use. Let's go to that site. And here you have to be a SuiteFiles admin. You actually have to be two different types of admins. One's a SuiteFiles admin, one's a bit higher than that, which when we set up a SuiteFiles site, we actually set up whoever requested the trial or has kind of been doing the communications with SuiteFiles. We set them up as the kind of big admin. So that's the person who will be able to log in here. I believe everyone who's watching right now will probably be that admin, so you should be able to log in here. If you can't log in, just let our support team know and they'll ensure you have the right privileges. Basically, you enter your SuiteFiles site URL. Just be aware this HTTPS part with the / is here by default, so you don't need to enter that again. Or if you copy and paste your URL like so, be aware that you will double up that HTTPS part, which has happened many times. So just be aware of that, but provide your site URL, your Office 365 email address, like so, as well as your Office 365 password. Now that hopefully won't actually log in there, but once you log in, you will see your site. So as we can see we logged in to the management portal for our site, demosuite.sharepoint.com. We can see a bit of information. So we can see how many users are on our subscription, which subscription we're actually on, the full suite plan, as well as an estimated monthly subscription fee, which is based off your subscription and the number of active users. In this billing information section here, we have your billing information as well as your credit card set up here. If you need to add your credit card to activate your subscription or update it, this actually is a deprecated way to do that. This is no longer the best way to do that. So we'll actually ignore this part and we'll just go straight to the Manage Users tab. So let's go to the Manage Users tab here. And this is where we can actually remove users from our subscription. So let's say Jamie at SuiteFiles.com is no longer with our company. He's left, so we need to remove him from our SuiteFiles subscription so we don't get charged from every month. So we click the minus button next to the name. It will just give you a prompt to confirm you actually want to remove that user from your subscription. You can click the OK button here, and that will actually remove them from your list of subscribers. You can also see a bit of information like when they first logged into your SuiteFiles site and when they last logged in, as well as when they last used the API. This last usage of API is referring to when they used the Outlook, the SuiteFiles for Outlook app, the Chrome extension, or the SuiteDrive app. If we go to change subscription type, we can change which subscription plan we're on. This will change it for your whole site, so just be aware of that. If we click on View Invoices, we can actually view our invoices from here, and if we click on the invoice number, this will open up that invoice. And you can view your invoice information here, like your GST information, and it will also say here, let's see if we can actually open one, which probably won't have it. But what you'll actually see here is the number of users and which subscription plan they were on. So you'll see, I might say 10 users times $18 for the full suite subscription. If you've done a migration or received any kind of custom scripts run or services work, there's a cost for. Those bills will also appear here. Will tell you what they were for and how much they're for. So you can see all of that information in here. If you have any if you have any questions about your invoice, like if you are wondering why it says you have 8 users when maybe you think that you should only have 5 or 6 users, please let us know and we can investigate that for you, give you a list of all the people that have actually signed into your SuiteFiles site, which will normally explain why those users are on your subscription. So that's really the management portal. The other thing is this, the other thing is this View Activity tab. This View Activity tab will actually show you things like when you change your SuiteFiles subscription, when users have been removed, or if users have been added. It tells you how many users you started the month with, which I don't think that's accurate actually. So never mind about that. Looks like it doesn't take into account users that were removed. We can see, so we can see here when users were added and the date that they were added. So this is the management portal where you can manage your subscription and your users, all that sort of thing. But we are actually in the process of trying to move as much of this management portal as we can directly into the SuiteFiles web app. So I'll also show you a few of the things you can actually do through our web app. And if you can do it through the web app, it's best to do it through there. But if you find that there's something like removing users, for instance, you can't do through the web app yet, then you will need to use the management portal for that. So we're actually in our SuiteFiles site here. If we want to view things like invoices or update our credit card for our subscription, we can go to the top right of the browser here. We can click on our username to bring up the SuiteFiles menu. We can click the account button. And as you can see, this is the kind of manage subscription / account settings section. We can click on billing details. This won't actually load anything for me because this one needs a specific kind of admin role, but we'll just click on it just in case. does. Nope. Good thing I had this open. Basically, if you go into the billing details section, hopefully this is easy to see. You'll basically see your contact details that are being put in the system with the credit card, and you can click this update credit card button here, which will bring up the form where you can enter your new credit card details. It's the same form that you use when you initially put in a credit card for your subscription. The subscription level will just basically do the same thing as change subscription type. It'll just allow you to change which subscription you're on. Invoices, it's not going to load here, but it's the exact same as this View Invoices tab. It will display links to your invoices for months, and you'll be able to click on those invoices and view them just like in the management portal. So we are keen to put all of this kind of management stuff for admins into the web app because it's more accessible through the web app instead of having to log into a separate place. But it is a work in progress at the moment. Yeah, that's it in terms of managing your subscription. The next thing to go through is around kind of user permissions, folder permissions, setting up security groups for those folder permissions. So if anyone has any questions about the accounts or subscription, managing your subscription side of things, please feel free to let me know now. I think the only other bit of information I can think of to add is just that the invoices are done in arrears. So at the end of the month is when you will receive your invoice for that month. So for example, for your SuiteFiles subscription for this month of July, if I can find my mouse here, you will receive your invoice around the end of the month or start of the next month, and that will be your invoice for the previous month of July. Just so you're aware of that. Okay. Looks like we don't have any questions, so we will move on to having a look at the permissions side of things in SuiteFiles. So as a SuiteFiles admin, you should actually see a few more options than standard users. One of the places that will be in is the More tab. So in the More tab, standard users are only going to see the recycle bin here. As a SuiteFiles admin, you should see the Manage Users and Groups section, as well as the Manage Templates section. Now, we're interested in the Manage Users and Groups section. Manage Templates is something you can actually allow people to have access to, but we'll be going into that in the template webinar tomorrow. So Manage Users and Groups is the place we're interested in for now. We'll click on that. What this will do is it will list all of the security groups in SuiteFiles. We'll also list the users that have logged into SuiteFiles, and it will allow us to set up permissions. So the first thing we'll look at is these groups here. So these special groups are default groups. The site admins group is just basically a group that has your SuiteFiles admins. So as we can see for this site, Andrew Sims is the only admin of this site. Now I'm actually logged in as an admin, but it's a different kind of admin access, so my user won't actually appear in these admin groups for the site. This All Contributors group. This All Contributors is everyone who has access to your SuiteFiles site. Now, this Everyone member, we can ignore this one, but this Everyone member is a default group in Office 365, which just literally means everyone within your Office 365 account. And that's why I was saying that everyone in your Office 365 account can access and log into your SuiteFiles site because of this default Everyone group, which just gives everyone access. Otherwise, you'd have to go and manually set up everyone's access to SuiteFiles, which you can do if you'd like to. You just have to let us know and we can help you out with that. The All Groups part will just show you all of the groups you have. Members is the All Contributors group. They are the same thing. Owners is the Site Admins group. They are the same thing. Visitors is a default group in Office 365. It's not actually used for anything, so just leave that. Just be aware that the members, owners, and visitors groups are default groups. They cannot be deleted, or they will, particularly the members group, if you delete this, or if you delete the everyone group in here, you will effectively remove everyone's access to your SuiteFiles site. The owners group, don't mess around with that unless you want to remove users from here, but don't delete the actual group. Don't delete the members group. And this business admins group is actually a custom group I've set up, which I can delete without it having any kind of big consequences. Next up is our list of all users. This will show us all of the users that have logged into our SuiteFiles site. And if I click on one of these users, for example, Jack Slater here, I can see a bit of information. You can see his email address, first logged in, last logged in, and we can actually access the user permissions from here. So what we can do here, we can see there's a couple of different permissions here. The first one is whether this user is administrator. If I make this user an admin, it gives them permissions for everything in SuiteFiles, which if you want them to be able to manage templates and do things like delete items, then that's fine. However, the problem is they are going to also be able to override all folder permissions and user permissions you set on them. So you're basically making them a super user in doing so. If you would like to give them access to some things without them being able to override everything like that, then what you can do is you can leave that user as admin field to no, and then just worry about these three permissions at the bottom. So if we want the user to be able to access the template manager, we can set this to yes. If we want the user to be able to delete files and folders, we can set that to yes. If we want the users to be able to download folders as zip files, we can also set that to yes. We've pretty much given them permission to a few of the admin features without actually allowing them to manage the site or manage other users or override any permissions we set up for them. So previously we didn't actually have it like this. They could only be an admin or not. Based on the feedback we got as to what people wanted, they wanted to be able to provide these kind of permissions without that user being a full admin. So that's why we've put these in, and it's a really it's really useful being able to allow them to do those things. So that's setting up user permissions. Security groups like this business admins group are used specifically for folder permissions. The reason we use security groups for folder permissions is because if you add individual users directly to the folder permissions and you set up a whole bunch of different folder permissions, then if those users leave and you have new users arrive, you have to go and find all of those folders and delete and re-add users. If you apply a group like the business admins group here to 50 different folders, and let's say Kim Anderson left and someone called Bob came in as a new employee and they needed access to all these folders, and we needed to also remove Kim. Instead of going through every one of those folders and removing that one user, we can simply remove Kim from the group and add Bob, or let's just add Jack instead. We can just add Jack to the group, and now Jack has permission to all 50 of those folders that this security group was provided permission to. So hopefully with that kind of explanation, you can see why security groups are a much better and more efficient way to handle folder permissions. Now, to create a new security group, we simply go to the top right of the screen and click the Create Group button. We provide a name for our new security group. So I'm going to call this Support Staff. We click the Create Group button. We click the Add Users to this group button if we'd like to add some users in here, which we're going to do. I'm going to select both of these because I can't remember which is which. We click the Confirm button, and here we go. We've got a security group. Okay, now I want to apply this to a folder. So let's go into the business folder. Let's say we have an IT resources folder, which our support staff need to have access to, but we don't necessarily want other users to have access to. we would go into the folder like so, we'd click on the three dots to bring up the folder options, we'd click the Manage Permissions button, and here we would enter the name of the security group, like so, select that security group, and this basically says that only the users within this security group can actually access this folder, no other users can. Now I'm going to do this in the other way, where for this audit subfolder, I'll just actually show you, whoops, that I have a standard user logged in here, not an admin, doesn't have any of the admin features, goes into the business folder, can only see that IT resources folder, which is interesting because I have permission to it with this login. But if we go to manage permissions here, for some reason something funny's happened with the permissions. Sorry, it was supposed to show a whole bunch more subfolders here. Otherwise, I can't really demonstrate this very well. You can, whoops. You can see, oops. Sorry, I have a feeling that someone else is in the site doing a demo or something. Okay, I'll demonstrate this in a different way. Let me just reload this, whoops. Okay, so you can see that as this login, I can access the personal folder. Let's create a subfolder. Let's call this Mark. Let's say this is Mark's subfolder, his own personal folder. And so therefore we only want Mark to be able to access this subfolder. Actually, you know what? I have done a bad example because we don't have a user called Mark. Okay, let's say this is Jack. This is Jack's personal folder. Let's go into our permissions. Personal, no, you know what? Let's create a group first called Jack. Sorry, I'm trying to be quick because I've got 1 minute left in this room. So I've got a security group called Jack. We add the user Jack to the security group. We then go to the Jack personal folder. We then go into the permissions. We select yes. We say Jack will be the only one who can access this folder. We close that. Then with my standard login, I go back to the personal folder here, and now I can no longer see Jack's folder because I do not have permissions to that folder. I'm not part of that Jack group. So that's how security groups and folder permissions work. I'll just quickly show you before I go. Oops, wrong one. If I go into those permissions, if you go into advanced, you have the option to use these toggles to provide edit or read only or none access. Read only means they can't update, upload or edit stuff. Edit means they have full access to edit and upload things, and none means they just have no access. They won't even be able to see that that folder exists. Okay, cool. Now that brings us to the end of the admin training session. I have recorded the webinar and we'll be uploading a recording of it to our YouTube channel, which is just called SuiteFiles. I do have to pack up, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know now. Otherwise, if you have any questions later, feel free to send them through to support@suitefiles.com. All right, cool. Thanks for your attendance, everyone, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your afternoons. Thank you. See ya.